News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Ricks. The Trump administration just announced a $1.7 billion federal fund to pay victims of so-called government weaponization after President Trump dropped his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS this morning. Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall has more on this from Washington.
We don't have that many details. This filing came in a Miami court earlier today and didn't really have anything else other than the request to drop the suit by President Trump's lawyers. U.S. officials have discussed creating this $1.7 billion federal fund to pay victims of so-called government weaponization. This has been a big focal point for the Trump administration, pushing back on allegations against the Biden administration when it comes to the idea of weaponizing the justice system to go after political rivals.
Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall says that could include about 1,500 people who were prosecuted over the January 6th insurrection. President Trump would not receive any direct payments. An Iranian media outlet reports the U.S. has proposed a temporary waiver of sanctions on Iranian oil, which has been a key demand by Tehran to agree to a peace deal and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This follows more social media threats from President Trump over the weekend, saying the clock is ticking to make a deal. Bloomberg's Jomana Bersetchi reports.
We know that the president is prone to hyperbole, and in this case, the question is whether they actually do follow through with another round of kinetic action, military action. And I think that is the concern this morning in the region. And of course, for global markets, you're seeing the reaction on oil today.
Bloomberg's Jomana Bersetchi reporting from London. Brent crude fell to $108 a barrel this morning, but has since climbed about 2% in the last hour or so to $111 a barrel. Meantime, some 23 tankers have been spotted around Iran's principal oil export hub, the largest cluster to have gathered at Kharg Island since the U.S. Navy started its blockade a month ago. No tankers, though, are loading, which suggests growing strain on Tehran's oil export system. The White House is saying a little bit more about what China agreed to during President Trump's visit to Beijing last week. Bloomberg's Kasia Klimasinka is in D.C.
China did commit to buying more of the U.S. food products, including, for example, beef and poultry. The two sides also, what is interesting, that they didn't mention Taiwan in their final readouts of the meeting, but we know that the two sides have discussed it behind the closed doors, and President Trump also has to make a decision of whether he will allow sales of weapons to Taiwan to go through or not.
Bloomberg's Kasia Klimasinka reporting from Washington. We check the markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg, and stocks are falling as doubts resurface about a possible peace deal in the Middle East. The Dow's pretty flat, but the Nasdaq's down 0.8%. The S&P's down about 0.4%. The 10-year Treasury yield's at 4.5%. The 2-year yield's at 4%. NextEra Energy has agreed to pay about $67 billion in stock for Dominion Energy. It's the biggest power acquisition ever and would create a utility giant extending from Florida to data centers clustered in Virginia. The scope of this deal, though, underscores how the spike in AI-driven power demand is pushing the industry to seek even more size and clout. Elon Musk says he's back in Texas working on an IPO for SpaceX. The company could file publicly as soon as this week, and Bloomberg's Charlie Wells tells us it's drawn massive interest.
We see on the institutional side the likes of BlackRock saying that they want to get more involved, and we know from the retail side there is so much excitement. There have been a lot of retail investors trying to get in through, funds, through sort of private investing in ways that they've never before, and that just speaks to the demand, to the interest here. But this is not risk-free, right? We're coming at a time of volatility.
Bloomberg's Charlie Wells reports SpaceX is seeking to raise as much as $75 billion on a valuation of $2 trillion. That would make it the biggest IPO of all time. The World Health Organization says at least 6 Americans have been exposed to Ebola during a deadly outbreak that's killed more than 90 people now in East Africa. This strain, though, has no approved vaccines or therapeutics to treat it, and the CDC says it's working to safely withdraw those Americans. But it isn't saying how many or whether they're infected. Talks have resumed at MTA headquarters to resolve a Long Island Railroad strike that's now extended into the work week and become a headache for hundreds of thousands of commuters. Jano Lieber's head of the MTA.
We are hopeful that we can put this to bed, but the union's got to move a little bit further, and we do not want to have the outcome of this deal, which is a request for better wages than the rest of the MTA workers receive, to result in additional fare hikes or additional taxes.
That's MTA CEO Jano Lieber on Bloomberg Surveillance. It's the first work stoppage for the nation's busiest commuter line in more than 3 decades. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Ricks, and this is Bloomberg.